Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome you to our August 26, 2024 Sueur City Council meeting. At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Council members, you were all presented with your packets over the weekend. Hopefully you had a little opportunity to check those over. Reach out to our city administrator if you had any questions. At this time, I will entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda. So thank you, Councilmember Tui, seconded by Councilmember Schlueter. Any other discussion, comments, concerns? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Excuse me, the ayes have it. We're going to run the presentations. Mr. Roby, you want to introduce our newest of Sueur's finest?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I will actually leave that honor to Police Chief Sueur. Tonight, council has the honor of administering the oath of office, which Chief Sueur will, to Officer Ireland. So I'll let you take it over, Chief.
Thank you. This work, it does. I'll try. Thank you so much for coming. It is so nice to see family and friends that are here to support Janet and the department. It's very important. So this is really, we talked about how in the past we used to have oath of office and just swearing in, and that kind of went away. And we brought it back for the families because it is very important for you guys to be part of it. And some things I'll repeat and some things are new. A swearing-in ceremony is a formal event where individuals stepping into new official roles make a solemn promise to be loyal, honest, and dedicated to their duties. For police officers, the ceremony involves taking an oath of office, pledging to uphold the law, protect the community, and serve with integrity. The Sueur Police Department has always prided itself on its strong community engagement and trust. Our commitment extends beyond mere law enforcement. It's about fostering relationships, understanding the needs of our residents, and working to ensure the safety and well-being of everyone in our city. In these times where people are very hesitant to pursue a career in law enforcement, it's truly commendable that Janet has chosen to return to school and take on this important responsibility. Her dedication to stepping up and embracing this role reflects a strong commitment to serving and protecting communities. Janet, your decision to join our department speaks volumes about your dedication and commitment. You have chosen a path that demands courage, integrity, and compassion. Your belief in making a positive difference is evident, and as you embark on this journey with us, know that you're becoming part of a team, a family devoted to upholding the values of service and protection. Your presence here reinforces our mission to serve and protect with honor. Welcome to Sueur. Welcome to our city, where community matters. Welcome to our team, where each member plays a crucial role in safeguarding our community and community's trust and safety. We will do the oath of office. You can read it, and I will read it to you, and you repeat after me. Just when I say, I say your name, you say your name. Okay. I state your name, do solemnly swear.
I, Janet Ireland, do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of a police officer
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of a police officer
within and for the city of Sueur
within and for the city of Sueur
and state of Minnesota.
and state of Minnesota.
I will pin her.
All our council members came by and congratulated.
Absolutely, and then I will have mayor and city administrators.
That's the question.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome to Ridgewood.
Yes.
Mayor will have you sign this,
Multiple.
and then- Thank you. And now there'll be plenty of chairs because. Alright, so now we'll leave that there.
Thank you.
Thank
Any
you.
family of Officer Island, if you want to have some pictures out there, that'd be wonderful. If you don't want to stay for our meeting, we're not. Moving on to public hearing, this is regarding ordinance 609. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to open up our public hearing. Thank you, Councilmember Sullivan. Councilmember Wayne is second. Any other discussion, comments, concerns? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Mr. Roby, do you have something you want to say?
If you'd like me to share a couple words, I'd
Yes, please do.
I would be honored. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. At the last meeting, a regular city council meeting, city council waived the first reading of ordinance 609, which is an amended version of ordinance 598, which council will recall was considered last in July of 2023. And now that you've opened the public hearing, we can hear from anyone who has signed up, and I can answer any questions that council may have.
Thank you. We all understand the importance of this ordinance. We're pro-business here in town. We like to see people thrive with their businesses, whether it's a food truck or traditional businesses we have in town. But we need to also proceed ahead and watch out for the safety and have equity for all our businesses that we do have. So we want to be fair and equitable to our businesses. We want to be safe to our citizens. At this time, Sue, is there anything you want to share? Or are you okay? Okay, very good. So with that said, I don't think we have anybody else who wants to address the council regarding 609. If not, I'll entertain a motion to close this hearing. Thank you, Councilmember Swanberg. Secondly, Councilmember Sullivan. Any other comments, concerns? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are considered routine and have been made available to the city council at least 2 days in advance of the meeting. These items will be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless the council member or citizen so requests, in which then these items will be removed from the agenda and considered in normal sequence. Mr. Roby, you want to review these with us?
I would. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight, we only have 2 items on the consent agenda. The first is approval of the city council minutes from the August 12th, 2024 regular meeting, and the second is approval of disbursements through today. Included in those disbursements are 4 items over $25,000. The first, Allied Blacktop Company for their street ceiling work as part of the 2024 approved street maintenance project, totaling $72,055.29. Second, to Bolton & Mank for the work on the preliminary engineering for the North 4th Street reconstruction project, $63,787.04. Third, to the Minnesota Department of Revenue, the city's share of sales tax for July 2024, totaling $54,963. And finally, to Advanced Power Services Incorporated for a replacement generator at Mayo Park Lift Station. This was associated with the flooding incident, which I'll provide an update on in my administrator update later, totaling $45,744.
Very good. Anybody have any questions for our city administrator? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda. Thank you, Councilmember Williams. Councilmember Tui seconded, although, any other discussion, comment, or concerns? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to public comment. Public comment provides an opportunity for the public to address the council on items that are not on the agenda. Comments will be limited to 5 minutes per person. Persons wishing to make a comment must sign up in advance. And on the sheet that was provided for us, identifying themselves and providing us with their address. We do have a couple people that want to address the council tonight. Why don't we start with Mr. Matt Bishop? Do you want to step forward? Welcome.
Hello.
Yep, you were good.
Name is Matt Bishop. I was here last November to ask the city council why there was a second service charge on solar accounts. It was explained that the second service charge is to cover the extra labor needed, which includes the labor needed for cutting checks, among other things. I'm here to once again challenge the charge and to say that solar is not a money-making endeavor. If it was, more people would be doing it. Margins are minimal to non-existent, and the choice to go solar is most often a decision made to do something good. Any charges makes it even more challenging to break even. As for checks being cut, my wife and I have had our panels for 13 months. We've had 2 checks cut. Rounding, those 2 checks were for $7 and $27. Ironically, there was another 3 months where we would have had a small amount of money, but the $20 service charge took that away from us, and we ended up on. Ours is a situation where we're trying to offset our demand on electricity, certainly not to make a ton of money. I would like to think that that alone would be appreciated for what it is. Our journey to solar began in 2021. My wife Jen and I were very interested in reducing our carbon footprint. After a lot of research and many discussions on EVs and solar panels, we purchased an EV in 2022. That, of course, increases the demand on electricity. So later that year, we committed to solar panels, which were installed in 2023. Again, we were happy to do what we could to reduce our demand on electricity. The decision to get an EV and to go solar could not have been made without incentives in place from the federal and state governments. Those higher levels of government want people to go green, and they back it up with incentives. Never did I imagine the local level of government would actually charge people extra for making the choice to go green and reduce the demand on electricity. Word of mouth goes a long way. I've had people ask me about solar, and right now I can't recommend it. If the city of Sueur wants people to go green, charging any amount of money is not the way to show it. So I'm here again to ask that the charge on solar accounts be removed. And it comes down to that one question: does the city of Sueur want people to go green? If so, show it and drop the charge. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Bishop. Yes, indeed, you were here in November, and I have followed up with this with our city. What I had failed to do is follow up with you, and I apologize for that. I've got your phone number here, Mr. Bishop. I'll have some more discussion with the city administration, and I will be back in touch with you before September 9th meeting. I appreciate your attendance tonight.
Thank you.
The other name we have on our list is Mr. Leroy Farr. Mr. Farr, I'm used to you talking to me all the time, so tonight you get to talk to the whole council.
Hello, council. I'm Leroy Farr, 112 Caucus Drive. I've had solar for a little longer than Matt has. And when we started out, there was only one bill. At that time, it seemed like that was a simple thing. Yeah, I have one meter. It comes in when the solar is in, it goes that way. And when it's not, then it's going the other way. And you're charging $20 extra for that. I don't understand why you can't send out one bill, and if I have extra money on it, that it would just relocate into the other part. It seems like it's a simple type of operation. Well, you're sending out two bills, and if I have more solar, you're sending out a check. And so I just think that you're doing more paperwork than you need to.
Thank you, Mr. Farr. If I'm reading you right, you're looking for a little more simplicity, and Mr. Bishop, you're looking for a little more incentive. So we will keep this in mind. I will continue my discussions with the administration, and I'll be back in touch with both of you. So thank you. With that said, I don't think there's anybody else to address the council tonight. That'll take us on to our first item of business, which is the city administrator update. Mr. Roby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As referenced in the disbursements, the city did make one of our earliest, most significant purchases in the recovery effort of the Mayo Park lift station, which is the purchase of a new generator. Justin Nielsen and I have a meeting with FEMA, a follow-up meeting with FEMA next week to start discussing our submissions for reimbursement. So kudos to all the staff for keeping track of hours, equipment. It's very, very detailed what FEMA requires and allows. And so as Director Graff can speak to, there's been a lot of tracking place since late June that we'll be discussing with FEMA next week. Some people probably noticed it earlier today. We posted on Facebook that city crews will be installing some asphalt on the gap in the pavement coming into town on the north side, which is a gravel dip right now. We've gotten approval from the county to pave that, put a temporary asphalt fix in there that should make it a little bit smoother. Personnel and Budget Committee continues to meet every week. I would like to thank everyone for council for the discussion last week at the budget work session. Kudos to all the election judges and city staff who served and put in long hours on primary day. Overall, it was a success. Turnout numbers were, I would say, expectedly low, but spirits were high. Had the chance last week to meet with our friends at Bimeda with Mayor Kirby. Had a really good touch base with them about some strategic visioning process that they're going through, and really enjoyed meeting some of their senior level staff. Thanks to Connie Levine for hosting us. Speaking of growth and development, on Thursday I'll be taking part in a development tour. So Community and Economic Development Associates, CEDA. They're the organization that provides the Sueur EDA with staff member Jack Wheeler, was Zach Bubani, who many of you met. CEDA hosts an annual development tour where they pick certain communities that they support. They load up a tour bus with developers, engineers from southern Minnesota, and then they drive them around these cities. So I think they're hitting Lake Crystal, maybe Mapleton, and Sueur. So I get to be their tour guide around the Sueur Thursday afternoon, giving a big sales pitch for why people should sink their money into our community. Tomorrow we'll be celebrating our annual employee wellness picnic in Legion Park. Very grateful it wasn't today. Wishing Ziggy, Scott Zebarth, water wastewater operator for a long time here at the city of Le Sueur, very happy retirement. He retires at the end of this week, so if you see Ziggy up and around, please wish him congratulations on his retirement. Wishing all students, teachers, staff, and even our athletic director a safe school year. And one final note, on October 3rd, Marion Peck was a finalist for a National Silver Sneaker of the Year award. Marion put up a great campaign to win the national award, fell just short, but Allison Watkins and community center staff are working with the National Silver Sneakers program to host a celebration for Marion on October 3rd at the community center. So the entire public is encouraged to show up and celebrate Marion for just being awesome. Personnel and Budget Committee will meet this Friday, and then the next regular meeting of the City Council will be Monday, September 9th. At that meeting, we will be asking City Council to consider the preliminary general fund budget and levy. That's all I have.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions? If not, this will take us into our regular agenda, which will start off with agenda item 9A, the second final reading of ordinance 609. Mr. Ruby, you want to prefix there?
I will, just because it's what I do, Mr. Mayor, but not much to add. So just to recap, the city currently has no ordinance speaking to the use of mobile food units, which are commonly known as food trucks within the city. Most cities around us do, whether they're called food stands or food trucks. The Center, Belle Plaine, Jordan, Mankato, North Mankato. The list goes on. We have some form of ordinance on the books. Staff took feedback from City Council and the public, and spoken with local businesses following the original consideration of a similar ordinance back in summer of 2023, and we've come back with an amended version. And in general, there's a lot that food trucks can add to the vibrancy of a community. There's no doubt about that, but staff's recommendation is that there should at least be some basic guidelines in place for how those businesses operate in the community, as there are ordinances and laws for every other business that operates in the community. Just a reminder, City Council did waive the first reading at the August 12th meeting, and so the recommendation from staff is a motion to conduct or waive the second and final reading. And should this pass tonight, the ordinance will be published in the city newspaper and made official.
Thank you. Any questions, concerns? If not, I will ask if anybody wants to read the second reading of 609.
I'll make a motion to waive the second and final reading of ordinance 609 as presented.
Thank you, Councilmember Swanner. Second by Councilmember Tui. Any other discussion, comments, concerns? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Which takes us into item 9B, resolution R 2024-043, order of improvement and plans for the North 4th Street. Mr. Roby.
I'll just kick it over to Mr. Beanfang. We've talked a lot with Mr. Beanfang over the last few weeks, and this is the next formal step in the process in our 2025 street and utility improvements project, which we're referring to casually as the North 4th Street and Cathcart project.
All right, thank you, Mr. Roby. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. So last meeting, we held the improvement hearing, which was a required step. And as is past practice here on the last few projects, that we held on the action of ordering the project and passing the resolution until the next meeting, the meeting following the hearing. And that would be the requested action tonight. So just a quick brief recap. Our improvement area here for North 4th Street is bridge to Dakota Street or South 35. And then we have the leg of Cathcart between Commerce and North 4th Street. Projects due to failing roadway, underground utilities, undersized utilities, as well as improvements for the pedestrian accommodations. So at the improvement here in last meeting, we received some feedback and comments, which I'll comment on the next slide, but really tonight is our next step in that 429 process. It's the formal ordering of the project and proceeding with that preparation and plan. So while it looks like we've done a lot, and we have in concept and planning, really tonight is that formal action to kick off the final design, really get into the detail and solve this project from an engineering standpoint, a phasing and staging standpoint. So just want to, caution on that is we try to be really prepared and informative and transparent, but we have a lot of work to do yet. And so nothing is final as of tonight, just more preliminary and conceptual. Between now and then in December is when the heavy lifting goes, and we'll be preparing that final design. I'll be back before you with this project at December 9th meeting to approve the final plans. That will be that final product, and then that's when we authorize and go out for bidding. There'll be a MnDOT approval, a county approval process following that, really gearing us and then accepting those bids in the spring as we've been talking about, and then being prepared to maximize construction season in 2025. And then we'll have the final completion in 2026. We have a number of other targeted open houses or neighborhood meetings, if you will. We'll have a final design one here prior to coming back to council. We'll have one in the spring prior to construction. And we'll have the second hearing, which is the formal assessment hearing process. That'll be late summer, fall of 2025. So to note the final design, we just really want to emphasize that none of this is solved and final, but ongoing final design considerations. There was a comment made in regards to roadway pavement design, and so I wanted to call particular attention that this corridor will be designed to a 10-ton. It'll be consistent with the county state aid highways that we've designed here, the last Elmwood and Ferry and South Main. That is a requirement as part of that LRP grant, actually. And so it's not excessive in the sense that we wouldn't already been accommodating for that. It's a local collector. It was a previously county road. We're aware of the industry implications on the north end. So this isn't an upgrade we weren't already planning for, but wanted to note that that was in consideration and something we were planning for. The actual section itself will be refined here in this final design. And as we work through the soil borings and what the existing soils are, it varies pretty wildly in Sueur, if you can believe it. Another comment that we received as part of the improvement hearing was just some concern about the underground conversion project, the electric specifically, and where that's going to be located and how that's going to be refined. And so just wanted to note that as we evolve in the final design, we will be working through some of these right-of-way needs, whether there's existing easements that are to be utilized or new easements that are going to be secured, noting that this process is kind of that formal kickoff and noting that we anticipate some of those needs in coordination. And specifically in the electric, that is very much still in process to be planned. And my best example of that is the very next agenda item, recognizing that we don't even have the electric consultant on board yet formally to participate. We certainly have been from a planning effort, but just kind of reinforces that nothing's final. So noting that, and hopefully that is, took with an honest heart. And then just verifying utility needs in general, new sewer and water services, the ability to upgrade those fully from the right of way and all the way up to the property. So those details of all those services exist. In some cases, they're combined services. So just trying to maximize this improvement and really set the quarter up for the future. So with that then, we've completed the required steps in regards to the preliminary engineer's report. We held our improvement hearing. We deemed the project to be feasible and necessary per the planning that we've had in place with the CIP. I made a note of, and the website here is noted as a link, and that information is current with the open house and project layouts for folks that want to be informed, but maybe haven't been a part of those formal engagements, open house or the improvement hearing. And so I'm happy to entertain any questions from council, but the request tonight for consideration is that adoption of that resolution 2024-043, ordering the project and preparation of plans.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions?
I'll just add really quickly on the website that Corey referenced, the project website, that if it's not already linked to the city webpage, it will be the next day here. Stacy's working on that. So folks in the public will be able to access that directly through our projects page on the city website.
Thank you. If there's no questions, I'll entertain a motion to adopt resolution 2024-043.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Toomey. Councilmember Schleter. Any other questions, concerns? If not, all those in favor? Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Moving on to item 9C, North 4th Street Electrical Distribution Project. Mr. Wolby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, the timing of Corey's comments in the last agenda item couldn't be better. And this is important to note that the 2025 Street Utility Improvements Project that Corey just referenced, the goal with this is to run that project in tandem with this project in a coordinated effort. So there have been long identified needs in improving electrical infrastructure and electric distribution along that North 4th Street corridor, generally outlined here by these 9 different sections on the map, which are, I would say, general. So I don't want people to look, say, oh, mine's right on the border of this box and it's not inside the box. It'll get more specific when we get into design, but the city of Sueur, the electric utility, has long recognized that it's important to continue to strengthen the electrical infrastructure system, and a big part of that is putting it underground, right? We saw that early in July with the storms that on North 4th Street, of course, took down some power lines. And again, much like we did with the South Main South 36 project, there's a goal to run the street utility improvement project in parallel with the electric distribution project. So to the general public, you know, in a lot of ways, these projects will seem to be one and the same project, but they'll be in fact two separate projects running generally concurrently. And we've got Bolton Make, who's already had conversations with DGR Engineering, who has served historically as the city's electrical engineering firm on some very preliminary coordination efforts. DGR Engineering has prepared an agreement to serve as the lead engineer on the electrical distribution project for North 4th Street. The agreement is in the packet. And the request tonight is to approve the execution of the proposed agreement with DGR Engineering. What that will do is it'll really kick off the formal design process for the electrical distribution portion of this area of North 4th Street that will be affected. Very preliminary phase was started. We really kicked that off in late April, early May. And then here we are now with doing some of the design and we're requesting City Council to formally approve the agreement with DGR Engineering to move forward with this project.
Thank you. Anybody have any?
Just real quick, this is all included in the, what was the 8 million or what?
This is separate from.
So this is over and above?
That's correct. So there's a portion of the electric that's included. I will say this, that in the slides that we've shown previously around the North 4th Street improvement project, there's an electric component, but that's not related to the electric distribution. That would be more related to things like street lighting, anything that's in the right of way related to the street improvement itself that has an electric component. This would be above and beyond that.
So it's an additional 2.6 million.
Correct. Would be funded with plan to be funded with a separate electric revenue bond, which is already assumed in electric rates. Director Graff and I had a conversation 2 weeks ago, I think, Ryan, maybe it's 3 weeks ago now, last week with DGR, lost track of time, to discuss the electric rate structure and what bonding is included where. So this project was slated to occur sometime in this 2-year window. So it'll be funded as planned with electric revenues.
Thank you. Anybody else? If not, I will entertain a motion for the execution of the proposed agreement with DGR Engineering related to the North 4th Street electrical distribution project. So moved. Thank you, Councilmember Spelman and Councilmember Schleter seconded. Any other discussion, comments, concerns? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to item 9D, resolution R 2024-042, the Oak Street Terrace TIF and developmental agreement amendments. Mr. Roby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Oak Terrace Assisted Living is part of a 2015 TIF and joint development agreement. When Oak Terrace was constructed, the developer had requested some tax benefits that come with a tax increment finance district, and the EDA and city jointly granted that TIF benefit to Oak Terrace. And as part of the broader development, as the city generally does, we entered into a development agreement with the developers for Oak Terrace that hold them to specific standards of construction, things like that, and just generally outline the rights and responsibilities. The development agreement does reference the TIF agreement itself. And so any amendment to the TIF agreement necessitates a corollary change to the development agreement. As part of their expansion by 8 units, the Oak Terrace owners did request that we reconsider what the original TIF agreement was. We discussed with bond counsel and our TIF advisor whether a new TIF agreement for this additional 8 units was advisable. And ultimately, all that would do is cost the city and EDA money in terms of filing fees and things like that. And then the simplest way to do it would be to amend the original TIF note itself and the development agreement, adding 3 years of increments pay-as-you-go increments to the development itself. So this is advised by bond counsel and our TIF advisor. The amendment to the note and the amendment to the development agreement are spelled out in the packet. And the EDA did have to consider nearly an identical resolution at their meeting tonight, because again, the EDA and city jointly approved these back in 2015. EDA did pass the resolution authorizing the amended note and amended development agreement, and so now it comes to council for consideration.
Thank you. Anybody else have a question? Mr. Dewey?
I just, if you would, explain to me, I think I know what it is, but what is TIF? The builder spends $1 million to build the building. That improvement generates additional property tax that is collected by the city. And then is 100% of that or 8% of that given back to the developer?
Correct, a share of that over either a set amount of time or to a maximum amount of dollars over the life of
But
it.
is it, what percent is that, 95, 90?
So right now, I think with the Oak Terrace, it's 90%, and can't recall if it's 90 or 95%.
Somewhere in
5 to
there.
10% is retained by the city for administrating the TIF itself.
Okay, so the original agreement was for $6 million over a specific amount of time, which would generate $75,000 per whatever. Now, is this additional add-on, is that just based on the value created by the 8 units? Or is that going to be based on the entire site, including the 8 units? So if you're paying 75, let's use that number, a year for a $6 million project. Now you've got, what, a 2 million, somewhere in that neighborhood, 1.6?
Yeah.
Are we still gonna pay the same amount for that?
It'll be the amount based upon the new entire complex, yes. So the amounts that were being paid back weren't meeting the threshold that was initially anticipated. And so it'll still be 90 to 95% going back to them for an additional 3 years, but ultimately the value that's being generated isn't as high as was originally anticipated. So we could either written a brand new TIF note just for those 8 additional units and do, an extra, whatever, 17 years or 6 years or 10 years or whatever. But ultimately we just pay for that. And instead we said, well, what if we just do an extra 3 years onto it? It doesn't hurt the city or EDA really in any material way, costs us less. And then, but yes, to answer
And
your
the
question,
developer's happy.
yes.
Okay, thank you for the explanation.
Thank you for your question, and thank you for the clarity, Mr. Roby. Appreciate it. Anybody else have any questions? If not, I will entertain a motion to adopt resolution R 2024-042.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Sullivan.
Second.
Councilmember Toohey seconded. Any other discussion, comments, concerns? If not, all those in favor? Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Takes us on to agenda item 9E, Doppy Lane. That's easement agreement. Took that off the screen pretty quick on me. Mr. Roby.
Apologize, Mr. Mayor. Yes, thank you. And I have a map here. Oh, wait, I apologize. There was a map here earlier, and it's not there now. It is in your packet, I believe. Property owner at 306 Doppy Lane. So there's a longer story that goes to this with the township roads. If anyone's familiar with township roads and the way they work, is that typically in the township road, the property line extends out to the center point of the road. So at some point in time, way back when the world was young, Doppy Lane was a township road and not a city street. At that time, the property line on Long Doppy Lane would have extended into the midpoint of the road. That isn't normally the case for city streets because we normally have a dedicated right of way for the entire width of the road, and then perhaps some extra for utilities and such. And so a number of the properties along Doppy Lane over time have we've either established easements or we haven't quite gotten there with easements, but we treat Doppy Lane as a public right of way effectively right now, but there's no easement for it. We also have a sanitary sewer line that runs along Doppy Lane that does intersect with the property line here, but again, we don't have an easement for it. And one thing we do is when properties are either being redeveloped or potentially sold, is evaluate what might be the easement needs that the city has, where we have public infrastructure, but we don't have formal right to access that property because it's technically private property. You may recall that we did this in May of 2023 with Ridgeview Medical Center, when it turned out that, I think it was Davis Street had never been formally dedicated as a road, even though everyone and their brother knows that Davis Street is an actual street. It still existed technically on private property until City Council on Ridgeview entered into an easement agreement to declare Davis Street a public street. We have a similar situation here. There's a very small sliver of Dobbie Lane that's part of the 306 Dobbie Lane property. Our city engineer and city attorney worked together to draft the easement agreement that's in front of council tonight. The property owners have signed the easement agreement, essentially granting public right-of-way and utility easement for the city over the portion of their property that extends into what we would commonly refer to as the public right-of-way.
Very good. Thank you for that explanation. Anybody have any questions regarding this? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve entering into a public right-of-way and utility easement agreement as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Tui. Councilmember Williams seconded. Any other discussion, comments? If not, all those in favor? Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to items of appreciation and reports. Councilmembers, this is your opportunity to share what's going on in your community, what's going on with your commissions. As always, we will start past Mr. Huntington. We move on to Mr. Schleter.
Just two things. I attended a Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities regional meeting in Mankato on Thursday, August 15th, and an HRA meeting on the 21st.
Thank you. Moving on to Councilmember Sullivan.
At an EDA meeting tonight, the majority of the meeting was in closed session to discuss the 169 property. But I have nothing tonight.
Thank you. Councilmember Swanberg.
Just a couple of congratulations. Congrats to the Sueur Braves County baseball team participating in the state tournament. Congrats to Marion Peck. That's quite an honor that she was given. And best of luck to the students and staff in the Sueur Henderson School District. Hope you have an awesome 24-25 school year.
Thank you. Councilmember Tui.
Nothing tonight.
Nothing. Councilmember Williams.
Just had an HRA meeting last week with our new executive director. It went very well, and Pioneer Power was very busy out there.
Thank you. Yeah, the Pioneer Power weather was good too, wasn't it?
Those are-
Okay, very good. I have nothing to report, so with that, I will entertain a motion to dismiss the meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Councilmember Swanberg. All those in favor?
Aye.